Governments come and go, but voices still remain to remind us of the past. The present, and there's a voice that will stand to speak for the future. So then how do we make these voices objectively relevant and issue-based in impacting the governance systems of the day? Get your answers right here on your Voice Governance program as we feature different stakeholders and political leaders as they get to voice out. Tonight we feature Honorable Lubinda, the Tonse Alliance chairperson, and of course he is the Patriotic Front faction acting president, I should state that. And thank you so much for joining us. Remember that we're live on Topstart and 104, and of course we are on Facebook as Astro Television Zambia and many more other platforms. Obviously even the Patriotic Front Facebook pages are streaming the particular program live. Good evening, Mr. President and Honorable Lubinda, for coming, and thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to your program, Mr. Banda. I'm happy to be here. I should say this is the first time I'm coming on your program, and I have to congratulate you. I see that this is a TV station that's run by youngsters. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Well done, and keep it up.
Pleasure. Thank you. Honored. Mr. Lubinda, Zambia today is wrestling with energy crisis in terms of fuel. There is issues with electricity. The cost of living is one other major issue. There's seemingly political division, and citizens are saying they're now stuck between a government that they accuse of not really delivering fast enough and another opposition they don't fully trust in. Why should the Zambians now be able to trust you and not President Hakainde Hichilema with his United Party for National Development?
You put it very well, that a government that they accused, yes, they did accuse us. And now when you ask me why should the Zambians trust us, it is because we are experienced. There is no other political party in Zambia that is as experienced as the Patriotic Front. Remember that the Patriotic Front was formed in 2001 and was in opposition for 10 years. In those 10 years in opposition, PF mastered the art of providing checks and balances. And it formed government in 2011. For 10 years we superintended over the affairs of Zambia. Numerous members of the Patriotic Front had various positions in government. We had presidents, Michael Chilufya-Sata and Edgar Chagolungu, may their souls rest in peace. We had vice presidents, we had ministers, we had district commissioners, we had permanent secretaries. We also had a host of mayors across the country. We are a team that is extremely experienced. After the 10 years of superintending over the affairs of Zambia, by the will of the people of Zambia, we went back into opposition. And we've been in opposition now 4 years. And in these 4 years, we've continued.
Why do you think they chased you out? They sent you out from office? If you believe that you are truly an experienced government that served this nation for 10 years.
And that is what I was about to come to. Why should they trust us and not the UPND government? So now that you asked that question, it allows me to go fast forward. The Zambian people did not vote the PF out of government because of failure by the PF. It was because of the numerous allegations and accusations that were leveled against us by the UPND. And I have to reiterate what I've said on other platforms, that I give kudos to UPND for mastering the art of propaganda. They are the best insofar as propaganda is concerned. We couldn't match their propaganda when we were in government. While we were busy delivering development, they were busy misinforming people. And they were busy creating a mirage, an impression that they were angels. And unfortunately, the Zambian people were deceived. The Zambian people forgot the old adage that not everything that glitters is gold. And they thought that they were running after angels. So at that time, Zambians were comparing practical reality with illusions, with fantasies. And obviously, they voted for fantasies, hoping that those fantasies will become reality. Now, the Zambian people are asked to compare apple against apple. They are now comparing actual realities. They are comparing the performance of the Patriotic Front and the performance of the UPND. And by and large, Zambians know that there is no comparison whatsoever.
Let President Edgar Lungu, before his passing, on the few platforms that he appeared for an interview, he did admit that yes, your government was careless, there was organism and a lot more of beatings, there was no sanity, and he did admit that really that led to your defeat. You are saying the other thing. You are stating that it was propaganda.
Be careful not to put words in people's mouths. Mr. Banda, be careful.
Mr. President,
no, I'm just asking you. I'm just asking you.
Record.
I don't think you can show me any recording where President Edgar Lungu said that we were careless. No. President Edgar Lungu, just like I, have admitted that yes, when we were in government, we made some mistakes, and we learned from those mistakes.
What causes mistakes?
It's not carelessness.
Is it carelessness?
No.
What causes mistakes?
There are two different things. You could make an honest mistake, not out of carelessness, but an honest mistake based on poor judgment.
How long can a mistake be? How often can it be repeated?
No, wait a minute.
Sure.
I don't think that we should go into an argument. I think that your viewers would like us to be progressive. And we shouldn't waste time on trivialities such as this.
True. I was just trying to get clarity.
Wait a minute. Yes, let's get to the substance. I've just suggested to you that don't put words in people's mouths. And don't try to justify. I've told you that President Edgar Lungu, just like myself, just like many other leaders in the Patriotic Front, have admitted that we made mistakes. One of the mistakes we made was not to lash back at the propaganda that was being thrown towards us. That was not carelessness. No. That was just poor judgment on our part. We thought that our work would speak for itself, would speak for us. We miscalculated, and that was an error, and we have learned. We also admitted that we allowed the UPND to go out and claim that all the hooliganism that was taking place was occasioned by PF cadres. But you heard what happened recently, that actually the UPND has the art of going out and dressing their members in PF regalia and making them appear like they are PF when they are not. We didn't learn our lessons at that time. We learned them now. And we admit, we made some mistakes. For instance, when we decided that we were going to abolish meal allowances at universities, we chose a wrong time. We thought that the Zambian people would understand that we're doing this because we wanted to be equitable, to provide equity to all the students in private and public universities. But of course, it was wrongly timed. These are mistakes that we made, honest mistakes. And this is the reason why I said to you, Mr. Banda, that there is no other grouping of political players that has the lessons that we have learned, that has the experience that we have. And I can assure you that we are the most formidable and the most prepared to offer a better government to the Zambian people.
You often, together with other opposition political leaders, call this particular government of the United Party for National Development authoritarian. But critics say the Patriotic Front was quite a harsher regime altogether. Why should the citizens be able to believe that now you're championing democracy as the Patriotic Front and the Tonks Alliance as government in waiting come 2026?
President Michael Chilufya was called Chimbwino Plan. President Edgar Lungu was called Chakolwa, Imbwa ya Kuchawama. And the people who called the two presidents such names did not grace the courts. Today, there are many people who are in courts simply for calling the president names, simply for saying, take Amata Kupanch, somebody's in court. How can, you know the story of Raphael Nakachinda, he's in court now.
Well, that case is still in court.
It is, yes. But I'm talking about what you're talking about, authoritarianism. Which regime will you call authoritarian? One where presidents were literally insulted, not a single person was imprisoned. And one where a person, for just naming a body part of the president, that person ends up gracing the courts.
Are you justifying?
I'm answering your question, sir. You said that people are saying the PF was more authoritarian than the UPND, and I'm giving you examples so that the people can judge.
But in
which of the two was is more authoritarian? I'll also give you another example. We came up with the cybercrime law. In that cybercrime law, we did not say that if I record a conversation between the two of us, one of us should be arrested. Okay? Haga India has come up with that law. If we have a conversation, you and I hope that people are listening and learning from this. If you and I are on a phone conversation and I decide to record that conversation, I've committed a crime and I'll be jailed. Isn't that being authoritarian? In the Cybercrime Act that we came up with, we did not say that a police officer, without any warrant from the court, can record a private conversation. If you look at the cybercrime law of Haga India, any officer of the government has the right to record a private conversation, and that recording can be used in court against the people who are recorded. Who is authoritarian, sir? Who is authoritarian? Under the PF government, when we came up with the amendment to the Constitution, what did we do? We spent more than 3 years consulting people because we're not authoritarian. The UPND government, they come up with a bill, and after the bill is in Parliament and the Constitutional Court says this is an unconstitutional manner of handling the Constitution, then they say we're now going to consult.
Of course, the Constitutional Court.
Who is authoritarian?
They've struck down the Constitution.
No, we're talking about authoritarianism, Mr. Band. That's what we're talking about. And I'm just giving you a litany of examples to show you.
Is it not that they learned a lesson from...
authoritarianism of Haga India cannot in any way...
Is it not that maybe you didn't exercise so much authority, that's why there was all that organism, and now they're trying to be careful and be of authority and just ensure their sanity?
Do you and I live in the same city? Because people in Lusaka were listening to us, they know that what you're talking about is not true. Because already there is hooliganism at markets. Now, as we speak, there is hooliganism in bus stations. Who's causing that? Edgar Lungu? No. And when you say we didn't use authority, and at the same time you're saying you are authoritarian, how can that be? You can't use both. If we didn't exercise authority, you can't say we're authoritarian. People slapped me, sir. They slapped me. Huh? We didn't just go and bundle them up. No. We had to allow the police to follow the due process of the law. And those people were taken to court, tried in a court. All right? And the fellow found guilty. And because we're not authoritarian, I went to President Edgar Lungu and said, sir, the fact that the young man has been convicted, may you please pardon him? And the young man was pardoned because we're not authoritarian. Had we been authoritarians, are you sure that a person who was facing treason would have been discharged of treason? No. Had we been authoritarian, would have said, until the court determines the matter, stay there. But because we're not authoritarian, because we are human beings, we're able to say, no, let's stop this, because anything that we do which divides the country or which creates animosity in the country is not good for the country. We didn't go that route. Had we been authoritarian, we would not have buried Kenneth Kaunda the way we did. No. But the authoritarians are even stopping families from burying their beloved ones in a manner that they wish. Authoritarians are the ones who, when they go and find young people, artisan miners, trying to eke a living from their God-given resources, they don't use community service officers to speak to them and persuade them to do it better. They use the gun, and children are killed. Those are authoritarian. You never heard that happening in the PF government.
Honorable, opposition, sometimes opposition rallies are faced with restrictions. The government says it's a matter of security. Security sometimes that they're restricted to hold rallies and whatnot. Where do you draw the line between the law and suppression? Having been in power and your experience, as you claim.
Rallies are a very important ingredient of any democratic society. Rallies, demonstrations, picketing, right? Protests, all those are important ingredients of democracy. So, when you ask me, where is the line between suppression and the law? Whoever stops others from expressing themselves, whoever stops others from associating amongst themselves, whoever stops people from gathering is suppressing their rights. And remember that these rights are inalienable rights contained in the Bill of Rights, in Part 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. And it is the duty of any reasonable government, any democratic government, any government that is led by men and women who have respect for democracy. It is their duty, a duty that they cannot run away from, to provide space, sufficient space for the citizens to express themselves.
Is that to say,
when you have a government such as the one that we have, which always says we are not going to allow you to have a rally because we have security concerns, then you know that that's a draconian government. The duty of the state is to ensure that you provide security to your citizens.
Is that to say you never in your government stop any rally, even if the intelligence warns of violence?
When people say we want to gather, and the intelligence tell you that there is a security risk, as a responsible government, you make sure you curtail that risk. You don't stop the people from gathering. You curtail the risk. And this is the reason why you have the intelligence system. You have the intelligence system to be able to inform your decisions. Now, once the intelligence system tells you that if these people gather, that group will come and attack them, and you say, you, because of those hooligans who want to come and attack you, your rights must be curtailed, then you're not a government. You are not a government. Any democratic government will ensure that if they see that there is a risk for people to gather, it is the duty of the government to ensure that that risk is addressed, so that the people may enjoy their rights. I hope you're hearing me. If a community such as Kamwala for instance, intelligence officers get information that there are thugs who want to go and attack people in Kamwala, I don't think that the state will go and tell the people in Kamwala, can you leave your homes? Go and now stay in lodges outside Kamwala. That would be total irresponsibility. What the state is expected to do is to ensure that they bring down that risk. They follow the criminals who are about to attack Kamwala. You don't go and tell the residents, no, now run away. No. If I'm the guard at my house and the guard knows that there are people who are planning to come and attack me, the guard doesn't come to tell me, sir, leave your house because there are thugs coming to attack you. The guard makes sure that he weds that risk from me. That's what they are employed for. That is what the government is employed for. You employ governments, Mr. Banda, so they can protect your rights. Not only from external intrusion, but also from internal insecurity.
Even when there's no enough manpower?
Why should you not have enough manpower? Tell me. Why shouldn't you? And when you talk about that, your people out there will be laughing, those who can see.
Well, rallies attract
rallies
attract crowds.
Yes, rallies attract crowds. And according to the Public Order Act, it is the duty of the police. Okay, if you read the Police Act, it is the duty of the police to provide security to citizens. Right? It is the duty of the state. And to say that there isn't sufficient police is also hiding behind your finger. You saw what happened in 2022. We said we were going to have a rally in Matero, Zingalume. And they said we don't have security. We said we'll proceed because we have our own marshals who are going to provide security for us, and we are not a violent group. What happened on the material day? The whole of Zingalume, the whole of Matero was filled to capacity by police officers. And you have somebody saying if they don't have security. No, they have security. But a similar thing happened in Kitwe. Our colleagues, Socialist Party, said we're going to have a rally at such a stadium. And they said there is no sufficient police. On the material day, what happened? The whole stadium was surrounded by police. How come there is police to stop us from having rallies, but there is no police to provide marshals around a rally?
But the opposition parties that have been holding rallies.
Which ones?
The Citizens First have been holding rallies.
Which
what do you think you've been doing wrong?
Which other one?
Well, that's one good example.
No, I've asked you, sir. You said some political parties. And this is not an argument, sir.
Yeah, true.
You don't argue with me.
Yeah, true.
You end up being the loser.
No, Mr. President, I'm citing an example of a party.
You said, Mr. Banda, you said, there are several parties that are holding...
No.
What about you? Why?
No, I didn't say several.
Yes.
Get me right.
What did you say?
There are some political parties,
Yes,
opposition,
which
that
ones?
have held rallies.
Which ones? There's only one. Only one, Mr. Banda, so don't use the word some. Don't mislead your viewers. It's only one political party that has managed to have rallies. And why that particular political party, don't ask me, sir. Don't ask me. I'm also perplexed. Why is it that when it is NCP, they're not allowed? When it is SP, they're not allowed. When it is PEP, they're not allowed. When it is PF, West still. But when it is CF, they're allowed. I'm also hoping that a journalist like you, an investigative journalist like you, would give me answers. Because I also don't know, sir. I don't know. We at least have never held a meeting where it erupted into violence for anyone to say, no, you when you hold meetings there is violence. There's never been such a case. So why are we being stopped? What is the reason for stopping us? Why is it insecure when it is us, but it's secure when it's PF? And you remember not too long ago, a police spokesperson said, we are stopping you because we are fearing that UPND will come and attack you. that sensible to say? By a person employed by the citizens of Zambia. It's the same as telling me, you don't go to that shop because when you go to that shop, they will beat you. But you are employed to make sure that nobody beats me. And if you don't do that, you are failing in your job and you must resign forthwith. I've said it before, IG Musamba does not qualify to hold that office. He doesn't. And he himself knows it. How can you have a police officer, Inspector General of Police, literally saying, we will not allow you to walk out of your house because there is a thief waiting to beat you at your gate? No. The police was established to protect citizens, to ensure that citizens enjoy their rights. That's why the police was established. Nothing else. The police, sir, is not only for the protection of the president. No. The police was established to protect, especially the vulnerable, those who can't stand up for themselves. They're the ones who must be protected. Those of you who are able to pay guards at your homes, well and good. But the police must take care of those who can't have guards. Because if they fail to provide security to the weakest in society, they are not worthy of being called police. And if the police are going to be the ones who curtail the enjoyment of people's rights, then they are breaching the Constitution.
Mr. President, having belabored on that, and probably maybe, please, disclaimer, if I provide a follow-up probably to you for clarity, if I don't, maybe I'm seeming to argue. Sorry, I'm not.
No, we shouldn't.
Yes.
And I'm saying that because I think that if we argue, it's not in the best interest.
Exactly,
of
it's
our viewers.
for the Zambians,
the
many
viewers
Zambians
enjoy
that are
the
watching.
smooth flow. Yes.
Exactly. Thank you so much. So if I provide a follow-up, it's for clarity,
Sure.
probably to balance the conversation.
I'll take that.
Exactly.
I'll take that.
There have been blames on the cost of living under this particular regime, but didn't the Patriotic Front's borrowing trigger much of today's crisis that we are in?
We borrowed. By the time we were leaving government, we had a debt of $12 billion. And we can point at where that $12 billion went. And give me a little bit of time on that, Mr. Banda, so that your viewers can follow this clearly. Of that 12 billion, we built roads across the country. And I have a list of them. Let me just read it out to your viewers so that we're together, because this argument has come up several times, and thank you for raising it, Mr. Banda. Just for the roads. We completed the Link Zambia 8,000 kilometers program. 8,000. We connected Mbala to Mnakonde. We did the Luangwa Bridge to Feira. We did the Bottom Road. I'm sure you know the Bottom Road in Southern Province. From Njami to Munyumboy. We did Chinsali to Nakonde. We did Kafue to Mazabuka. We did Luangwa to Mwami border. We did the famous Mongu to Kalago, Mansa to Luwingu, Chingola to Solwezi, Chipata to Mfue, that very talked about road, Chipata to Mfue, Chipata to Vubwe, Kalomo to Dundumwezi, Kalomo to Dundumwezi. And I'm re-emphasizing Dundumwezi. Yeah, I'm sure you know. No. It is because we got 0 votes.
Where we got nothing?
Exactly. But we did the road. Okay? We also did Senanga to Sesheke. Beautiful road. We regret that we didn't have sufficient time. Had we stayed a few months longer, we could have done Sesheke, Kazungula to Livingston. We didn't do that. We did Kafue to Chirundu. We did the Pedico Road. Alright? It was in a very bad state. Yes, I was on that road recently and it has gone back into a bad state, but we did work on it. We did feeder roads, 4,300 kilometers covering all the 10 provinces. That's just the road network, and that's from the 12 billion that we borrowed. Over and above that, Mr. Banda, in 2011, Zambia was generating 1,600 megawatts of power in 2011. By the time we were leaving government in 2021, using part of that 12 billion that we borrowed, we increased power generation capacity from 1,600 megawatts to 3,200 megawatts. Just imagine for a moment, Mr. Banda, hadn't we done that, I don't think that today we could have had a program here for 1 hour. Maybe we would have had 5 minutes program because power would have been away from us 23.5 hours a day. Now with 3,200 megawatts, we're still having 5 hours of power, 19 hours of darkness. And yet we raised power generation from 1,600 to 3,200. We did that, sir, in a period of 10 years. Meaning, every single year, if you prorate it, every single year of the 10 years, we're adding 160 megawatts. Every single year.
Are you willing to admit that PF shares the blame for today's crisis?
No. PF actually must be saluted for where we are, in many respects. Can you just think for a moment, hadn't it been for the improvement of the road network just in Lusaka, I'm not talking about the district, inter-district roads, inter-provincial roads, just Lusaka, think how much time workers would have been taking to drive from Charleston into town. Hadn't it been for the investments that the PF put in, would have been in a crisis.
Government is equally putting up or building 1.1 billion refinery in solar plants, and recently they commissioned the Chisamba. Do you support this project?
Do you know that the Chisamba project was initiated by the PF? Kwenyu was just to go into commission.
Do you support the path they're taking?
How can I not support something that we started? How can I? We started that.
Nothing of that, of what they are doing on their own.
Which one? Show me one. Show me one.
Would you come and take a different chapter altogether because they are on the same trajectory?
We will come and continue with what we did. We will come and continue with what we did.
Not with what they're doing.
Because there's nothing. I've asked you, sir, show me what they're doing. Me, I don't see what they're doing. What is it they're doing? In the last 4 years, can you show me if they have added 10 megawatts of power to the grid?
It's last week when they were groundbreaking another 100 megawatts of power in Chipata.
They were groundbreaking. I'm saying adding. I told that we did the groundbreaking of the one that they went to commission.
But addition starts with groundbreaking.
Yes, yes, you can ground. I told you, we did the road from Senanga to Sesheke. And I apologize that we stopped in Sesheke because we didn't go into Livingston. So you can ground break, that doesn't mean that you have achieved it. No. Yes, they built toilets on the copper belt, pit latrines. But should I really clap hands for that? We built universities. 7 universities, sir, in 10 years. We built airports. The Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. Masterpiece. Mwansaka Pwepwe, Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe in Ndola. A greenfield project. State-of-the-art project. That's what you can be talking about. The Kazungula Bridge. That's what you should be talking about. Not telling me about groundbreaking. No. You go into a house after you have roofed it. You don't go into a house just because you have dug a foundation. No.
We've seen the revampment of mining activities on the copper belt, some of which were crippled under it. Aren't you acknowledging those strides that the government has done?
you know what? For us in the Patriotic Front, and for me particularly, I would say, under the current arrangement, we shouldn't even be clapping for that. Because we are actually just impoverishing our future generation. Our future generation would be better managers of those resources than the UPLD government. They are better off leaving our mineral resources where they are, underground. Because now, even when they say they want to ramp up production to 3 million metric tons of copper, of what use is it to the Zambians? Who is benefiting from the sale of copper? Mr. Banda, when we were in government, we ensured that at least 4% mineral royalty tax was being collected from our mines. At least 4%. These guys come in and what do? The first thing they do is to say we're going to make mineral royalty tax deductible. For the sake of some of the viewers who may not follow this properly, when they said mineral royalty tax is now tax deductible, it meant that the mining companies, when you charge them that mineral royalty tax, they pay you. At the end of the year, when they declare their profit, and you tax them on that profit, then they say, we gave you this money in mineral royalty tax. We're going to deduct from the total tax that we should pay. Meaning it is just Kalova. And if it's Kalova, it means that they are not paying mineral royalty tax. So, sir, even if they are bragging that they are putting new shafts, they are dewatering mines and so on and so forth, for as long as there is no beneficiation to Zambians, it is pachabe. It is of no use. It is a waste. You heard recently, Mr. Banda, and I'm sure some of your viewers heard about the 1 billion advance payment for gold. All right? Advance payment for gold. Gold that you have not yet extracted from Mother Earth. Some foreigners have pocketed $1 billion. When are you going to tax that? Are you taxing it now? No. You only tax it when the gold is mined. Meanwhile, a foreign company has taken to the bank $1 billion. That gold that you dig in 10 years is when you start paying tax. And yet the miner has walked to the bank smiling. And surely you expect that the PF must say, yes, this is a good program. No.
Honorable Lubinda,
if you go to the energy sector, just look at the companies in the energy sector. There are some companies that are buying power from ZESCO and exporting it. Meanwhile, you here in this studio are being forced to buy diesel, which is also in short supply, to run your studio at huge cost. When will you make profit? When? Who's being impoverished? You. Who's being impoverished? That young lady running a saloon. That young man running a barber shop. Those young people are trying to make a living by welding. Those young carpenters are the ones who are suffering. And you give them power in the night. For heaven's sake, sometimes when I'm driving around, I find people making blocks in the night. Why? And yet, your government is exporting power. And this is not an allegation. I'm sure you remember, Mr. Banda, President Hakainde Hichilema himself said a few years ago, if we stop exporting power to Namibia, to Botswana, when we ramp up production of power, generation of power, those markets will have been taken over by other countries and therefore will not be able to sell. How does a government think that way? That we are going to impoverish our local industry for the sake of future sales? When you ramp up that production of power to satisfy the foreign market, then you come back to try and satisfy the local market. Will those poor workers still be there?
What would you have done different? Because there are contractual obligations. Some of these contracts were signed before even they came in.
You know, no. Don't say they were signed before they came in. Then you're putting the blame on us. For us, we're even importing power. We were importing power. And we were subsidizing it. In case you've forgotten, Mr. Banda, remember the name Kapawa ship? Yes. Kapawa ship was a ship that was docked in Mozambique. And using the interconnector, we were drawing power from the ship to feed Zambia. Because we were a caring government. We were a pro-poor government. We never entered into any strange contracts which were going to bind citizens to slavery. No, we are not money-hungry people. For us, our hunger is to see that the Zambians have a high-quality life. That's our hunger. We don't hunger for dollar, for us to say, we have so much money, we have sold copper, but there's no money coming in. We have sold power, and yet the sales of power actually is being done by private companies. It's not being done by ZESCO. It's being done by private companies.
Having belabored on that, Mr. President, unemployment still remains one of the burning issues. Of course, this particular government has employed, of course, in some huge numbers in the health sector, the education, and whatnot. What specific industries would you prioritize before you come into power?
Before we go to that, because you have mentioned that this government has employed. In the last 5 years of our government, under Edgar Chagolungu, leave out Michael Santa, just under Edgar Chagolungu, we employed 25,000 nurses. 5 years, 25,000 nurses.
In 5 years?
Yes.
And they did 30, they've done 30,000 so far.
Yes.
In health.
Yes. And you know why? The reason why we employed 25,000 in 5 years is because we were constructing more hospitals. We didn't have the hospitals to employ. Okay? We didn't have the schools, Bwana, to employ. When they came, they found that we had built 6 specialist hospitals. We had built 46 district hospitals, 50 mini district hospitals, 490 health posts, 15 health centers were upgraded to level 1 hospitals. Okay? So with that background, with that infrastructure, it was easy for them to just come and sit back and say, yes, the hospitals are there, now let's employ. Who do you give credit to? The occupant of the house or the builder of the house? That's why I'm saying the PF must actually be given kudos for doing what we did. We laid a very important foundation on which these people just came and said, he said, we just have to employ. Yes, we are happy that they employed because we didn't build those hospitals for them to remain idle. No, we built them so that employment could be created. We built schools, sir. 14,300 primary schools. 14,300, Mr. Banda. Just think of it, 14, not 4,000. 14,300 primary schools we built. 4,700 secondary schools we built across the country. We also built 14 trade schools. And I told you earlier, 7 universities. You think that those structures would just be empty? No. When our friends came, they found the infrastructure is there. And the infrastructure was demanding teachers. So they were forced to employ because the structures couldn't remain without teachers. So they mustn't brag. It is because we created the pool for employment. Hadn't we created that pool, that appetite, that demand for teachers, they wouldn't have employed.
Mr. President, you promised clean governance, but many still associate the Patriotic Front with corruption. Why should the Zambians believe PF-linked leaders now?
How many of the PF-linked leaders are serving sentences on corruption charges without appeal? How many? None. None. All those who were arrested by the subordinate court on corruption-related cases have appealed their convictions. And according to the law, are you guilty to prove yourself innocent? No. You are innocent until proven guilty. And the court of first instance cannot be the final court. If you're convicted by the subordinate court and you say, I am not guilty, I want to appeal so that my matter is heard by a superior court, the tag of guilt is removed until such a time that the final court pronounces you guilty. So, sir, if you're going to say simply because people have been dragged to courts and so on, therefore, PF-linked members are guilty of corruption, you're being unfair. You're being totally unfair. And like I said, unless you tell me, sir, as leader of the Patriotic Front, I know of no member of PF who has been convicted and they have said, yes, I'm guilty. All of them are saying, no, I've been wrongly tried, I've been wrongly convicted, and I want my matter to be heard.
The HH government says its corruption fight is restoring Zambia's global reputation. Do you acknowledge any progress here?
One of the persons who celebrated Zambia's elections of 2021, election results of 2021, was no other than President of the United States of America, Joe Biden. He actually abused the United Nations General Assembly to post call on Zambia when he said the youths in Zambia have risen against the corrupt regime. The representative of the government of Biden, Michael Gonzalez, has been the first diplomat to call out this government on its corruption. It's not me. It is a representative of a government that celebrated their victory. Michael Gonzalez, not too long ago, told the world, we gave Zambia $20 million to buy maize from Tanzania. We were shocked to learn that they were actually paying more than the market price. And secondly, that maize actually was maize that Zambia had initially exported to Tanzania. And third, that maize did not even arrive in Zambia. Corruption? Did I hear right? This government corruption? They are fighting corruption? Who has been arrested over that $20 million scandal? No one. We heard about the airport gold gate scandal involving Egyptians. To date, have we heard of convictions? Where is the gold? Where is the money? There was money on that plane. Where is it? Who were involved? How was the Egyptian plane released to leave Zambia? Why was it that that trial was in camera? No journalists were allowed to go and follow that trial in court. Clean government? We heard about drugs being bought from Egypt, and we were told this is a government-to-government transaction. No. No. The government of Egypt does not produce medicines. It's private companies that produce medicines. What happened to those medicines? Containers were loaded and stuck at a private warehouse. Who was involved? Corruption? They are winning the fight against corruption? They have a good reputation internationally? No. Tell us who is selling Zesco power abroad. Look at the energy crisis today, the diesel crisis. Why do we have this diesel crisis? The IMF had to come in to say this single sourcing of the pipeline is a wrong plan. And they come up, cry, my beloved country. You have a government, and that government is being told by a foreign entity, can you please come up with what is called an IMF diesel procurement plan? And the government agrees. Why are they doing that? Corruption. Well,
You brought in the ambassador, US ambassador to Zambia, and it reminds me of the case of the Kafue River contamination, which shocked the nation. How would you balance attracting foreign investors here in Zambia with protecting Zambians and the environment? Would you be tougher on the Chinese investors? Yes?
Chinese? Why particularly Chinese? Why particularly Chinese? Why pick out a nation in the debate? Why pick out a race in the debate? No. We wouldn't focus on any particular country and say this country or that country.
How would you handle it? How would you go about it?
We are the ones who actually empowered the Environmental Council of Zambia. Okay? We empowered them. We are the ones who elevated the position to that of director. We are the ones who empowered WAMA and gave them the resources as a government, because we wanted those institutions that safeguard the integrity of Zambia's environment to be vibrant. Not necessarily against any particular nationality, no, but over all participants in the economy. You recall how many times our labor officers were going out and stopping this and stopping that abuse of workers. We were doing that. And where workers are abused or where the environment is at a risk of abuse, irrespective of who is involved, your government has a responsibility to remedy it. But over and above that, a responsible government is a government that ensures that it puts mitigatory measures in place. Don't go and repair. Make sure that you have mitigatory measures in place to avoid that calamity. You must have inspectors who go and inspect on a regular basis, especially in high-risk areas. That's what a prudent government does. I hope you're following me. So it wouldn't be a question of the Chinese, no. Everybody, and especially government. We, for example, came up with a plan, and if you look at what we have done with artisanal mines, for instance, we knew that this is a dangerous undertaking. Okay? We said we are going to ensure that we provide under ZCCMIH an artisanal mining department to go and train artisanal mines. That's how we also established the gold company, Zamgold company. So those miners are not abused, because we know now for a fact that those miners, when they get a little bit of gold, they are given peanuts by the people who buy. We came up with a law that nobody in Zambia will trade in gold. Whoever discovers gold, whoever mines gold, must go to ZCCMIH, to Zamgold company, so that everybody is treated fairly, so that even the artisanal miners must get a fair share of the gold. Look at this reckless government. How many people have died because of the recklessness of government? Those people were trapped in Chingola, you remember them? They were trapped. A lot of lives were lost. Now you want to blame it on one company. Why don't you blame it on government? Because the government's responsibility, sir, is to make sure that every person is operating in a safe environment. That's why you have the mine safety department. And they know that the artisanal miners here, they're the ones who gave the Black Mountain to those youths. And how many died on those Black Mountains? Why? Because they were not caring. The young miners who were killed by gunshots, boom, 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 boom. Kids dead, and you are concerned about private company. Be concerned first about the people you elected to protect you. They are the ones who are at fault.
Conclusively, Mr. President, let's look at politics and the 2026 elections. In months' time, Zambia will be going to the polls. But the opposition is fractured. Even the Patriotic Front itself has factions. Can the Zambians trust the Patriotic Front? A divided front altogether to lead them.
A faction, sir. When you say factions, it connotes that there are 2 or 3 seemingly equal opposing players. That's when you can call it factions. What we have in the PF is not factions. And I didn't want to interject when you introduced me as faction leader. There is only one PF. One PF. Because the other one is just one individual.
Documental PF.
Yes. So
that
is different.
But that is the rightful owner as things stand. So it's just right for me, a journalist, to be able to bring it clear. Because obviously that is content.
Yes.
If I came out as open as PF.
Now we're going into semantics again. We're going into semantics. I've just explained to you that you cannot say one person breaking away from the group will be called a faction. No. The fact that that person is being supported by the government to hold on to the name, to hold on to the certificate, does not make that person a faction. So we have no factions in the Patriotic Front. What we have is a renegade who is being supported and sponsored by the state. He is an agent of the state for many sinister activities, even worse than just holding the name of the PF, such as bribing judges in South Africa, right? Such as organizing protests in South Africa. You can imagine, how does that person become a faction? He is just a state agent. He is a tool for the bidding of the government to do wrong things. He himself told Zambians, I found 12 missed calls. Boss was calling me, and the head of Zambia State Intelligence also called me 18 times before midnight. And now I've done my job, but judges must eat. That's him. In my language, in my humble view, a person who says, I'm going to bribe a judge so that the matter goes my way, cannot be considered a leader. There's another term that applies to such people, and I'll leave it to your viewers to decide which name to give such a person.
Honorable, what does the future of the Jones Alliance look like?
Very bright. Very, very bright. I have to say, the Patriotic Front has had formidable lawyers handling their cases in courts, and finally, they nailed the last nail in the coffin at the last sitting when our lawyer asked the court, Miles Sampa had that convention, and the question we have for the court is whether that convention is constitutional. when that question was posed by our lawyer, Miles Sampa's lawyer was asked, what do you say? And Miles Sampa's lawyer said, we agree that that convention was null and void from the start. Okay? We are on firm ground and we're just waiting for the court. And we're really hoping that the court would dispense this matter with spectacles of justice. And once that happens, then this gentleman, who is a state agent for doing things in Zambia and in South Africa, as he himself declared, and tried to hide behind the AI, nayo AI yamukanira ati no inesini kukamba so inesini ziwa chibemba cha so AI yamukanira AI no fyakushalira mwana niwe walelanda bamusalira. So we are hoping that Ujamunyamata, there will come a time when the courts will say give up.
It's interesting how you are calling this man a state agent, the same names that Miles Sampa was called then.
Mm-hmm.
What's your conclusion now?
This one, at least for Miles Sampa, he didn't go open. But this one, he told the whole world. He told the whole world that me, I'm an agent. I've been given money. To do what? And on whose behalf? A person who is paid to perform a function on behalf of the other is an agent of the principal. And this man told us he's an agent. So don't blame me for calling him an agent. He already told us he's an agent. Now, you asked about Tons, and I told you that the future looks very bright. After this has been handled, and after we've put to rest our dear departed president, then we will quickly, for the PF, we'll quickly go to the convention. I was on another television the other day, and I was illustrating the fact that the mandate of this current Central Committee of the PF runs out in May 2026. Meaning that this period, between now and May 2026, the Central Committee still has the mandate to govern and superintend over the affairs of the party. However, because the elections are around the corner, and because our presidential candidate is no more, as soon as the dust settles, we in the Patriotic Front will have to go and elect at a convention our next leader, who will also be our presidential candidate. And the constitution that holds Tonse parties together is very clear, that the anchor party is the Patriotic Front. And the anchor party is the one that's going to provide a presidential candidate for Tonse. This is an agreed position.
With all the Tonse leaders?
With all the Tonse leaders who signed that constitution.
So what people are stating that they anticipate conflict at that stage? What's your statement?
Conflict? No. Conflict is engineered. Conflict is engineered. There is no reason for conflict. There is room for democratic processes to identify leaders. And also, just for the sake of being clear, the convention of the Patriotic Front is not only to elect the president, it is to elect the 80 members of the Central Committee. All the 80 of us. Our mandate expires in May, and once we agree that we're going to have the convention in November, in December, whenever it will be, we will declare that our mandate has ended and let the owners of the party renew the mandate. Some of the members of Central Committee may not even be in the Central Committee that will go for elections. Okay? So there is going to be that competition, but that should not create conflict. No. If we manage it the way that we should, it should actually create harmony and unity. And that will happen in the PF. And in the Tonse Alliance, there is no competition there. In the Tonse Alliance, there is no competition. The Patriotic Front is the determinant of the presidential candidate for Tonse. So there is no room for conflict or even room for competition in Tonse. If a person in Tonse, being a member of another political party which is not PF, would like to be presidential candidate for Tonse, what they must do is quickly
Join the Patriotic Front?
join the Patriotic Front.
And you have agreed on those ground rules with everybody?
That's the constitution that's governing us.
All right. Well, time has really run out. Otherwise, Honorable Lubinda,
Yes, sir.
thank you so very much for having made an appearance on Astro TV.
As I go, if you may allow me.
Yes, I can give you a minute.
Yes, if you may allow me. I'd like to encourage Zambians to brace themselves for harder times to come because of the announcement by government that this year they want to sell 500,000 metric tons of maize, as announced by government, and as announced by Food Reserve Agency that they want to sell 1 million tons of maize.
They've projected 4 million, and that's surplus as per announcement.
Yes, that's what the government said. They are projecting 4 million. The crop survey, maize crop survey, is conducted by a team consisting of members of the Ministry of Agriculture, okay, ZNFU, and ZAMSTATS. And ZAMSTATS, as you know, are the custodians of all statistics in Zambia. While government has said they are projecting, actually they didn't say we're projecting, they said the government shall receive 4 million metric tons. ZAMSTATS said the projected harvest for the year 2025 is 3,569,000 metric tons. Where is the difference coming from? 385 metric tons. Difference between what the government announced and what ZAMSTATS announced. Zambia's consumption, annual consumption, is 3.6 million. There's a deficit of 116,000 metric tons between what ZAMSTATS said they're going to harvest and the consumption. Where is that maize coming from for them to sell 500,000 metric tons? For them to sell 1 million metric tons? Where is it coming from? There is a report, and people can Google it. There is a report on internet, the Maize Outlook Report 2022-2026. They made projections from 2022 to 2026, and I have to say they have been very accurate. 2022, the figure they announced is what we produced. 23, 24, 25, correct. They have said 2026, maize production in Zambia is likely to drop from the 3.6 that were produced this year to 2.1 million metric tons. With a consumption of 3.5 million in 2025, you expect that to grow by at least 4% in 2026. And if there will be a production of 2.1, when the projected consumption will be 3.6, we have a shortfall of 1.5 million metric tons. And your government, Yabakaponya, because they like to Goreka,
Mr. President, we may have to go.
All right.
Directors, as indicated, otherwise we appreciate your coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope to have you
Thank you
again.
very much. Thank
and
you.
Wishing you well.
You too. Please. And again, I want to commend you guys. This is fantastic. Keep up the hard work. With a lot of resilience under hard conditions. You will make it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good. Great. You have been watching this week's edition of Your Voice Governance Program, and I've been your host, Goodson Banda. as always, and I've been hosting Honorable Given Lubinda. Thank you so much for having taken time to watch, contribute, of course, in the comment section and so on. I'd have loved to read some of the comments, but of course, time is not with us. Until next time, from me and on behalf of the entire Astro Television production crew, it's goodbye, good night.